Hello everyone and welcome back to Billion's Gaming News Roundup for the week February 27th to March 3rd. I am Billion and let's just get right into it. It started with the first news being that Pokemon had the Pokemon Presents Direct this Monday and they announced a variety of things coming to their games. Starting with some new Pokemon coming to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. They announced 2 new Pokemon right now, which can be encountered through the Terra Raid battles available in-game. They also announced DLC that is coming to both Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. The DLC package itself is called The Hidden Treasure of Area Zero, in which you're going to be exploring new lands and finding new Pokemon. It's going to be released in 2 parts. Part 1 is called The Real Mask and it's going to be released this fall. And part 2 is called Indigo Disc and it will be released this winter. Some information was also released for a game they announced a while ago called Pokemon Sleep, which is going to be releasing this summer. It's basically just a gamified sleep tracking app. This Pokemon Sleep is also going to have some integration with Pokemon Go through an accessory that they are releasing called Pokemon Go Plus, which I believe is going to be releasing also in the summer. This Pokemon Go Plus accessory is going to allow you, apart from the integration with Pokemon Sleep, it's going to allow you to basically play Pokemon Go without opening the app. They also announced a new Pokemon series called Pokemon Concierge. It's going to be a stop motion animation series that's going to be going for Netflix. It's set in a Pokemon resort and we're going to be following one of the workers there as they interact with Pokemons that go to the hotel, which might be kind of interesting. Now let's get into some interesting news. A lot of news of Square Enix, starting with their current CEO, Yosuke Matsuda, is going to be replaced. He has been the CEO for 10 years at Square Enix, and if you don't know who he is, he's the guy that has been really pushing for NFTs and blockchain games, which people have not been a fan of. The new CEO is going to be Takashi Kiryu, who previously worked as a general manager at Dentsu Innovation Initiative, which is a business group exploring opportunities in things like the metaverse. So if you were expecting a switch in the direction the company was going, that's not going to happen. They're just tripling down at this point. But let's keep this Square Enix ball rolling with the news that Babylon's Fall has officially shut down. If you don't know what Babylon Falls is, it was a game that was developed by Platinum Games and published by Square Enix for the PS4, the PS5, and PC. It was designed as a live service game, but it flopped spectacularly. After a couple months after release, it only had 1 concurrent player, and that's pretty much a dead live service game. You need people to play your game. The service for the game was officially shut down February 27th, and the game was removed from storefronts last year. Continuing even more Square Enix news, Final Fantasy XVI is coming to the PS5 on June 22nd, and it's gonna be exclusive for the PS5 at least for the whole year. But just because the exclusivity period is gonna be over in like about 6 months after the game's released, does not mean that there's going to be a PC port of the game anytime soon. The game producer, Naoki Yoshida, even stated that right now there's no plans for the PC port, that if they do end up doing one, that is going to take a long time, even more than 6 months. He wants people to buy the game and play it on the PS5, which makes sense because he wants you to play the game even if it's not the way that you want to. Some last bad news for Square Enix is what's been happening with Luminous Production. Luminous Production are the developers that made Forspoken, and as y'all know, Forspoken did not do very well at all. Luminous Production was established in 2018 and it was made of developers that worked on Final Fantasy XV, so people that know how to make AAA games. But since Forspoken flopped and it was their first standalone game, Square Enix has decided to fold the company back into Square Enix. So Luminous Productions is gonna be no more after just 1 game. Now, if you bought Forspoken and you were excited for the DLC that they announced for it, do not worry. They stated that they're gonna finish the DLC that's gonna be releasing this summer, and they're also gonna release the patch that they promised that will fix some performance issues that they were having. Now, you know that Forspoken did not do well at all when Hi-Fi Rush outperformed it. Hi-Fi Rush, a game that was announced and released on the same day, already reached 2 million players, which is incredible. They released an update to celebrate the 2 million players, which added a photo mod to the game, Now, if you have not played Hi-Fi Rush, I strongly recommend you play it. It's an amazing rhythm action game that I personally loved. It's my favorite game of the year so far, and it's available on Game Pass and on Steam, so if you have Game Pass, it's a no-brainer to play it. Speaking of games that have performed well, Elden Ring just announced a DLC expansion. The developer From Software announced on Twitter that development for the expansion called Shadow of the Erdtree has begun. There is no release date yet, but this comes just after last week or 2 weeks ago when they announced that they sold 20 million copies. Time for some bad news. The Wolf Among Us 2 has been delayed to 2024. It was announced in 2019, and of course, come 2020, the production got super slowed down. Now, the game was supposed to come out this year, but they have decided to change engines from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5, which of course is gonna cause delays. They decided to delay the game to avoid crunching, which is always good. Always delay a game instead of crunching. The Outer Worlds Spacer's Choice Edition was just announced. This is just an upgraded version of the game for the PS5, Xbox Series, and PC that's gonna be releasing March 7th. This version is gonna come with better graphics and performance and an increased level cap, and players that already own the game are gonna be able to purchase this upgrade with a discount. It's not free, but at least they are giving you a discount. The next news comes from Destiny 2, which just set a new concurrent player record. The previous record for concurrent players in Destiny 2 was 128,000 players, but the release of Lightfall came with 300,000 concurrent players, which is amazing. That's more than double the previous world record. Not world record, the previous record. Keep in mind that this only represents the people that are playing on Steam, so even more people are playing in both Xbox and PlayStation. If you're still playing Among Us, they have released Destiny 2 cosmetics for Among Us, which you can get with free in-game currency, and it's gonna be available until May 30th. Beyond Good and Evil 2 losing its studio head. This game has been in development hell for a very long time. The studio is currently facing a labor investigation due to a lot of the developers working on the game experiencing burnout and going on sick leave, and sometimes even not returning to the job. This actually happened with the studio head Guillaume Carmona, who had been absent since the beginning of the year, and just last week the studio told the developers that he had left the company. He has also declined to comment on why he left, so that's kind of a mystery. Keep in mind, the game has not entered full production. You can expect the game to come out 2040, at least. Even more workplace issues happening at Activision, who just got sued by the CWA. The CWA is Communications Workers of America, and they sued Activision for firing 2 QA testers. These QA testers were protesting with their co-workers some of the return to the office plans, but they used some strong language, which led to them being in a disciplinary meeting in which they were subsequently fired. Now, the CWA is arguing that the workers' actions were protected by the National Labor Relations Board and that they were denied to have a witness for the disciplinary meeting. They believe that this firing is just retaliation for the QA testers joining their co-workers in protesting the office policies, while Activision is stating that they were fired for violating the code of conduct for using strong language. Honestly, I would be in the side of Activision for just like keeping in touch with the code of conduct that they have, but Activision has a very long history of not treating their employees well, so I'm not really sure we can trust them in stuff like this, so we will have to wait to see what happens through the lawsuit. But speaking of Activision, Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard is likely to be approved by the EU regulators. Microsoft right now is fighting 3 different entities. They're fighting the EU regulators, they're fighting the CMA in the UK, and they're fighting the FTC in the US. This is only about the EU regulators. It seems that the deals that Microsoft made with both Nintendo and Nvidia has eased the fears of some of the EU regulators, which has led to reports that the EU regulators are probably gonna approve the acquisition. Now let's end this with a couple of news that are super interesting to me specifically because they're Sonic related. This guy is Yuki Naka, and he's the co-creator of Sonic, and he just pled guilty to insider trading at Square Enix, which is amazing. This happened the same week that Takashi Iizuka has been promoted to the Sonic Creative Officer at Sega of America. He has been the head of Sonic team for a very long time, and he has been granted the position of Sonic Creative Officer at Sega of America, which I'm guessing comes with even more power related to Sonic. It is not clear at this time if he's gonna be replaced as the head of Sonic team, but we're gonna have to wait and see. That's gonna be all the news for this week. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to let me know what you think about any of these news stories. If you want to keep up with me, make sure to follow any of my social media. The links are found in the description. Hope you have a very good rest of the day, and I'll see y'all next week. Thank you so much. Have a good time.